or more were having, and it was about 15. So now this is a theoretical example, but more importantly, in our cohort of patients, so this is our study. So the patients who were, these patients are on remission. They have no symptoms. They're way below the line. That makes sense. People who are minimal manifestations, I mean, they might have a symptom of 2. They're way below the line. But some patients who have symptoms with ocular disease or mild generalized disease, even though they had symptoms, they were still below the line. So what we think, and this is theory, is that some patients can have some symptoms and in general be happy with their lives and with their health. Not everyone, but some. And why do I think that's important? Because so far, the way we've been telling that patients are good enough is based on doctors again. So we recently had some guidelines for myasthenia. This is an international consensus of experts in myasthenia. And they came together and decided that the goal of treatment should be to get completely rid of the symptoms, which I think is an honorable goal. But our data is showing that some patients are happy to have some symptoms, maybe because they don't want to have some side effects of some treatments, right? Because nothing that we can give you will have no side effects. All the treatments we have will have side effects. So the question we have, and this is something we're trying to find out, is what's the trade-off? How in general, and this is, when you come to your doctor, you should have this conversation on a one-on-one. We should tell you, these are the alternatives, these are the treatments, these are the possible side effects. And in general, some patients don't want to have, for instance, a lot of our patients don't want prednisone ever. And they say, I'd rather have a little bit of vision. I don't want to, gain weight. And that's fair. That's called a trade-off. We make, every time we make a decision, there's a trade-off, right? But we don't know that in myasthenia. We haven't researched that. So all the studies or the guidelines where doctors say this is what we should do is based on doctor's opinion. And because doctors, we want to make people better. If we could cure myasthenia completely, we would do it. We also don't want to cause harm. So what we would like is to cure everyone or make everyone have no symptoms at all without any side effects or minimal side effects. And that's the goal of the guideline. Have everyone with perfect health without side effects. But in the real world, that combination is not feasible all the time because the nature of myasthenia is an autoimmune disease. So any treatment we will give patients will have some side effects. Some of them might be quite bad. It also depends on the people. So what we're trying to learn, and this is stuff we're thinking, is what the in general patients with myasthenia feel. And we know that's an individual decision, but for things like Health Canada or for OHIP, there are a lot of new medications coming that are very expensive. So one of the things we're trying to see is if we can get this balance of how much we can improve patients' lives, that at the end of the day, the cost of the drug is justified, that the province would fund it, for instance. But that data now is not only necessary that we know how many people do well, we also need to know how many people are willing to take the side effects of any drug. So that trade-off is something we're trying to learn, and we don't have any data on myasthenia. So people are telling us that anytime now we give guidelines, when experts say, this is how we should treat this disease, we should incorporate patients' views and have research on patients' views. But that only happens in about 1 in 4 studies with guidelines. And I don't think it's because the people who do, like the experts, are not interested. It's because we haven't researched it. And I can tell you, myasthenia, there's no data. We don't know, in general, what the average people with myasthenia, patient with myasthenia thinks. And part of the things we look when we ask about preferences, how are different groups. So my theory, for instance, is that young women might be worried about teratogenic side effects because we know that myasthenia affects young women, has a peak in young women and a peak in older men. But young women are usually in childbearing age. They want to have a family. They want to have the myasthenia well enough so they can have a good pregnancy. But at the same time, they will not want to risk having teratogenic effects. So what wins? We don't know that because we haven't studied that. So that's already the kind of question we're asking ourselves to inform the doctors, but also policy and things like Health Canada and the OHIP and getting new drugs funded. And just to finish, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this, how we assess preferences. And there's a lot of math in here. I'm not going to tell you about it. One way we use it is a scale that goes from 0 to 1. So 1 is perfect health, 0 is death. And you can actually have negative values because there are some states that people consider to be worse than death. So if you ask me, I would think being in a persistent vegetative state being worse than death. But that's really personal. It depends on the culture and the country. But we can put it roughly between 0 and 1. And when we were doing the study with the scale, we used a questionnaire that gives you this number.
And such a short number, like there's 1 and 0.
Oh, 0.1. No, it's 0.111.2. So the scale we use has 3,125 possible numbers between 0 and 1. And it's been tested in general population, so we know in general, and it's in different countries, because people in Japan think very differently about culturally than people in Canada or the UK. So we used the way to calculate it for Canada, and we saw it in our patients because we wanted to have a sense of how patients are doing. And this is important if we do any health economics. It's in a state where, in a place like Canada, where we have socially funded healthcare, we have a problem with costs. We have to, especially when the government to fund new treatments, we have to sort of demonstrate that they're going to be something that's called cost effective. Why? Because there's just not enough money to fund everything. A lot of the new medications, especially, you've probably heard of new biologics, and all the new drugs that are being tested are quite pricey. So part of our job is to start doing those studies. And the point is that cost effectiveness is not only about people getting better, it's about quality of life. It's about this. So we use these numbers, how people value their health, to give a value to health. I know it sounds very economical, but this is based on a health economist did this. And it kind of works really well, surprisingly. So people are pretty good at putting a value to how they feel. So we wanted to have this to be able to do science, for instance, because we have no data. But what I found that was very interesting is that, again, so this is perfect health. This is death. So patients in remission and minimal manifestations value their health as almost perfect health, which makes sense. When patients went down, so having ocular symptoms or mild or moderate or severe disease, they value their health as worse, which is fine. We had a couple of patients with negative values in this scale, so patients who were feeling really, really poorly. But the interesting thing we found is we divide the little patients who have a lot of what we call bulbar symptoms, so difficulty swallowing or breathing or chewing, and people who have more weakness in their arms or legs. We call that mostly generalized. The people who have mostly swallowing, chewing, we call them bulbar. And normally we think about bulbar patients doing worse. We always put them as worse in our thoughts. But patients here, at the same level of overall disease, patients who had bulbar symptoms said their health was better than those who had more weakness in their arms or legs. And that was consistent in the people who had mild disease, moderate disease, and severe disease. So basically, if they had more or less the same number of score in the scale, or we said you're mild, moderate, severe, it didn't matter. But the ones who had more weakness in their arms and legs rated their health as worse, equal or worse than those. And I was surprised, and I shared this with my colleagues. We were all surprised, because doctors, we think that it's worse to have difficulty swallowing and speaking. And the reason is it's not because we don't care, it's because we're always worried that someone will have a crisis and is going to go to the hospital. But it seems to us, and this is something we're learning, maybe, for most patients who are out there and you're living your lives, it's worse for your lives, having difficulty walking and moving and doing your daily life activities, than having some difficulty swallowing and chewing.
I basically would have to concur, but I would question the fact that when you have those results, if you have a patient who has weaknesses, they may not have that bulbar.
That's a good point.
And if
they
they
do.
have ocular, it's one, so you're being subjective on each different level, rather than being, I have all three. So having all three, I will tell you bulbar is very dangerous.
Yes, I know.
And I know the feeling, and I have to be very careful what I do and how I eat. And some other people here have the same problem.
I agree. What we found is we actually calculate the scores. I don't want to bother you with the details, but in general, and this is all, when you do research, it's all in general, because there's always patients in both, on all the sides. We get the majority of the patients. The majority of the patients in general had worse, they said their health was worse, given more, even if they had both, because the scale gets everything. So we calculated, we did some statistical stuff that I'm not going to bother you about, but when we did that, even then, it was the symptoms in the arms and legs that were driving more these values, which I found really interesting. It doesn't mean that we think that patients are not bothered by having difficult swallowing. Patients don't know it's dangerous. We know that. But it seems for the daily life, in terms of how they would say, is how good your health is, it seems that people are more bothered. And this is a theory. This is something very new. We just are finding this, and this is something that we're wanting to explore. So we don't know if this will hold. We have to, do more studies and see how much this is important. But for us, it's really important because maybe, sometimes we're very aggressive with people with bowel symptoms, which maybe we should be. We don't want people to go into a ventilator. But I think maybe sometimes if someone doesn't have that and they are, weak in the arms and legs, sometimes maybe doctors, we are not that aggressive. Maybe we should be more aggressive in treatment, maybe. Or we should ask patients. So it just raises some questions, right, about how we think about the disease. But when I tell you, when I showed this to researchers, they were all a little bit shocked because this is not the way we think. And this is what we're trying to do, is trying to bring both views together. And this is not black or white. This might be different if we do it in a different population. So this is 200 people, patients who came to our clinic. Maybe patients, who go to other clinics have more or less severe disease. They have a different way of viewing the disease. Maybe people in the States will have a different view. But in this particular group of people, that's what we found. So we thought this is something to explore. At least it tells us that we have to start thinking or asking more the patients how they view their disease and not just, assuming that we know how they will feel. Because I think that's what we just have. We think we know, and we know a lot. We study and all that, but we cannot know how people feel. So this
is that 0 to 1 index of, I guess, what we call personal sense of well-being?
Sure, yeah.
Is that a global or medical standard now?
Yes.
That's not specific just to MG.
No, this is a really well-validated thing that's been
this
used
is where
worldwide.
we get into this efficacy of assisted death, patient death requests, this sort of thing. Is there some grade there where they're trying to put a number on?
No, not at all. This is also used for researchers. This is also used, for instance, for studies when we compare treatments and we tell the government, this treatment at the end gives people more years with good life. We just don't say this treatment gives more life. We like to say this treatment gives you better quality of life for the longer time. So we use these kind of numbers to calculate that kind of what a good life is. It's perfect? No, it's not perfect. But it works pretty well. It's been used all around the world. And the good thing is it's been used for other diseases too. We have numbers for the general population, so we can make comparisons across different diseases and across different states. But it wouldn't be used for something like that. So MAID, or medical assistance in dying, is a personal decision. In each case, at least in UHN, I can tell you, we just had a talk a few weeks ago for people who run the program. It's a case-by-case issue, and it is because part of the definition is that it has to be severe, irreversible pain or suffering, and that's really a personal, so personal that we couldn't use a number. It really has to go to the individual patient.
However, in almost, I can't think of any exception, a sense of inability to move your arms, the ability to control your physical presence, your essence. I can understand why that would be a higher awareness grading than just my mind and my throat and swallowing.
I can understand it too, but honestly, I haven't thought about that. Even before I saw this, I hadn't thought about that because we're trained, and it's not that we don't care. It's the way we're trained. We're like, oh, we have a patient kind of like crisis. We have to run. We don't want a patient, and that's good that we try to prevent crises. But the rate of crisis has gone down. So there are studies that show that now only about 10% of patients will have a crisis, which is a good thing. The minority now is a minority of patients who will have a crisis because we have the treatment. So 90% of our patients won't have a crisis. So the question is, in that 90% of patients, yes, we have to prevent the crisis, but those patients maybe are also better served by trying to maintain their good mobility and arms and all that. Maybe. So it's.
I agree with you that the swallowing is worse because if you can't swallow, you're losing weight, and
I know
that's the worst part.
I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying this is what we found, and I'm not saying it's not important. It is still important, but in this particular study, it seemed that for these patients, it was more important. So we're not saying it's not important. We know it's important.
I can't believe it.
And
they haven't been through what I've been through.
Well, what I think it might be too is that I think, luckily, the majority of patients don't have that bad problems for swallowing and chewing.
Yeah.
So it's not that they don't have it. I think the amount of patients for whom that is a main problem might be a minority, which is a good thing. So maybe because it's a minority, we see more the effect of the arms and legs and all that. Not because patients are not affected, but maybe, and that we saw that. So the number of people who have weakness in their arms and legs is more than the people who complain about difficulty eating and swallowing. So maybe that's a factor that's affecting.
But the thing too is when you have the bulbar, you're more aware and acute of your surroundings. So you're not going to go to a restaurant and eat big meals. You're going to eat very small. You're going to be very careful. What can trigger a crisis is something that you may not expect.
Yeah.
If you eat something with spicy, it may trigger your crisis. If you have a cold, I caught a cold 2 years ago, and it was one of those pepper colds that you cough and cough. By the time I hit 7 cough, I went into crisis.
Yeah.
So these are things that you don't aware.
Oh, I love
when you're looking at that study, a patient who has basically weakness in the arms may not have the bulbar. Yes, may you say that the arms are feeling more and the quality may be less. But if you have one of the three or all three, you might have basically.
These are not, we didn't have any patient in crisis because these are patients coming to the clinic who are stable. So the crisis patients are patient in crisis is a whole different world. A patient in crisis is worried about going off the ventilator, is worried about taking the tube off. So this is for patients who are outpatients, who are chronically ill, not for patients who are going in crisis. When someone comes into a crisis, we don't ask this questionnaire. We treat them and we try to prevent infections and get them off the ventilator and get in safely. And when someone has what we call impending crisis, so like someone has a lot of bulbar symptoms who are telling us progressively they're not able to swallow it, we ask about this, but then we try to, it's not that we of course are worried about that and we know that for that amount of patients, but it seems that in the majority, if you take all the patients with myasthenia, and yes, it's very heterogeneous, and yes, each patient is different, and that's why these things guide us in general. We try to gain better understanding, but this does not replace the one-on-one conversation you have with your doctor. Those individual issues will come because you'll have that conversation. So research is not, this is not meant to say that we will going to treat every patient the same. That doesn't make any sense at all. We'll still get the individual symptoms and individual characteristic of a patient. It just means in terms of when we think of policy, when we think about new treatments and things like that, what are the things we might need to consider that we're not considering? So this is all that it's saying.
Dr. Carolina, where are you on the PowerPoint right now?
I'm almost done.
Are you almost done?
Yeah.
Because normally we take a break for a Q&A.
Yeah, we're almost done. I think we can finish here.
And then we'll, after the break, we can have question and answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go to one thing back. One more thing.
And Dr. Carolina has also said that she will give us a limited version of the PowerPoint, which I can use as a guideline for reporting in the next newsletter.
Yeah, so I can give you some, as I said, some of this is not published yet, so I have to hold it back until we publish it. But
certain elements of,
well, a lot of the thing is very new, so we don't want to be scooped. So
right.
That's part of the job.
Right. We got that at the conference last year. We learned a whole new language called neurology.
It's very fun what we do, but there's also a lot of us do things and we want to, especially we came with stuff first, we want to be the first, but anyway.
Well, in fact, Dr. Carolina at the Congress last year became obvious that what she was pioneering is a new language of research. Like the language is changing. In other words, there was another system that was used, the different language for these focuses, that Dr. Carolina is actually trying to evolve to a different level. Am I correct? Sort of loosely?
Sort of, yes. We're trying to get stuff that's been there, but trying to get it, especially for myasthenia, but also I see other neuromuscular disorders, we're a little behind. So people in rheumatology are way above. People have been thinking about these things for years and years. We are just starting. So the last thing, because I want to go back to the fatigue issue, I know you're interested. So when we look at this number 0 to 1, that patients said my health is this value, we looked at what factors were affecting that. So the severity of the symptoms was 1, no surprise. People who were on disability did worse, no surprise. But we had also a scale, we asked patients to fill a questionnaire on fatigue. It's a different one from our scales, another questionnaire. And voila, patients who had more fatigue in general did worse. So I went back to the fatigue because experts kept telling, fatigue is subjective, it doesn't change with treatment and what have you. So we'll look at fatigue. when we compare this fatigue to all other different ways how we measure something called quality of life, and we use different ways, all the time across the board, fatigue was one of the main things that was affecting patients. Not only that, we look at our patients who we treated with prednisone and IVIG or Plex, and in fact their fatigue improved, and improved by a lot. And in fact, patients who were better had improved in their fatigue, and patients who were worse had either worsened or not improved on their fatigue. So we think that this is important, and we're not using it. So I looked at clinical studies in myasthenia that are, the United States has something called clinicaltrials.gov. You can look at trials that are ongoing. So I went to look, and I just looked at the first 45 studies in myasthenia that are published. Only 2 were including a way to measure fatigue out of 45 in patients with myasthenia. I think that's really impressive because I think it's important for patients. And I hadn't thought how important it was if we hadn't done this research. So I think, and this is something we've been talking about, maybe we should start, not only looking how strong you are and also how fatigued you are. And it sounds obvious if you open a textbook of myasthenia gravis, if you ask a medical student, they're going to tell you about the fatigue. But I think it's because we have this disconnect, and how doctors we're a little bit scared of subjective things that we've not incorporated. I really think that's it, and I think we should start looking into that. So I think that's the last. So what I'm going to tell you is that we are looking into this concept of patient-centeredness, and we're trying to incorporate it more and more in our research. We think, we're doing baby steps. At some point, we would have to have like a full study that starts and partners all the way to the end. I think realistically, we have to start with little things like this, and hopefully, if you have things that you think are interesting, we can have in the future, some town halls like this where we pitch and brainstorm about ideas, and then we incorporate them and develop the studies and partner together. But that's the whole idea. The idea is to engage you guys because we are interested in your opinion. We want to, help you feel better. We would love to find a cure, but at the end of the day, it only matters if it matters to patients and their families. And there's a lot of research there that shows that how physicians view things in patients is very different. And a lot of it is, sometimes physicians we come across as conceited or as we think we know everything. And some people may be like that, but for the most part, we do care about patients. A lot of it's training that we really focus on what we think is objective and we can measure. What we're trying to do is not say that patients are there or here.
They actually log in and continue to report statistically. We can't do an objective research support system, so the numbers also we can help. I mean, we hope to get to maybe 5,000 members.
We should have. We did a study a few years ago of how many patients in the province, and it's quite. We estimate it's pretty high. So and only on Ontario. So
correct.
What we were thinking about is, part of the questionnaire it's just been so busy, but trying to make it electronic or web-based or an app that patients could feel. It wouldn't work for our questionnaire every day because we ask about 2 weeks, and it seems a little bit too much to do it every day, to be honest with you. But if people could do it every 2 weeks or so, I think that enough could give you a sense, not only for us for research, but also for patients. I think to look, how the things change and to see, what happened here? Did I get a shot, or was I sick, or was I stressed? We're doing a study now. One of our fellows is doing a study about stress and personality and how it can trigger myasthenia worsening. So we know those things are important. But
the only other thing I didn't hear you saying was, do you factor in other health conditions such as diabetes or other parallel conditions that they have when myasthenia gravis evolves? You
so for this research, we really focus on that, but for clinical practice, all the time. So that's where the nuances in each patient is different because the disease manifests differently, because you have a different age, because you take no medication or 10, because you have diabetes and we give you prednisone. You have back arthritis, and we have to try to figure out, is your walking affected because it's your arthritis or is it because you're myasthenia? So we do that in every clinical encounter. We try to factor those things in. It's not easy. We don't have a really good way to tease out some of the symptoms. A lot of it sometimes is trial and error. Sometimes, if we don't know, sometimes what I would do is, if someone with myasthenia has a lot of, problem walking, I would try to maybe increase the prednisone or the methadone. If that gets better, clearly it was the myasthenia. If everything is better too. So medicine is not, unfortunately, is not an exact science. Medicine is not like chemistry or mathematics or things like that. I love numbers. I would love it if it were, but it's not. Medicine, there's a lot of it that we don't know, but because we treat humans, and we are human, There's a lot of factors that we just can't control.
I mean,